Hi, I'm Kim Jong-hyun, and today I will introduce about the role of the text analysis and one of the factors of the text analysis. First, we need to turn back to some fundamental questions, like why we analyze the text. As we learned, the meanings of the sentence can be changed by a lot of factors, like our background knowledge or like what we shares with the talkers and or something like where we are, a lot of factors. So we need to think again why we analyze the text. I mean the role of the text analysis. What is the role of the text analysis? uh, from the source texts we can like get the guidelines, which means that, like we can get some hints how we translate the sentence. Like, of course, the sentence can be changed by like the interpreter's intentions or a lot of factors, but it starts from the source text. So it means that the source text gives us the feasibility to translate. So let's move on to factors of text analysis. There are lots of factors, but I would like to introduce reading text first. When you read the text to translate, then there's two big process. First is to understand what it is about, and second is to analyze as a translator's point of view. This means like we need to understand the intentions and purpose of the sentence, like why the speaker told these sentences, or like why this sentence is written by the writers. To understand clearly about the contents, then we need to do two things. First is general readings, means that to get the gist of it. It means that we need to think generally what we focus on. Like when you think as you miss some sentence with complicated words, such as
Lumino-ultramicroscopic silico-volcanoconiosis is the longest word in English.
then when you translate this word, what we have to do is focusing on the meanings. Like in this sentence, there is some word that is the longest of in English. Not so. What we need to do is like not to focus on definitions, but to meanings. This is called like general readings. Like we need to think generally, and the second is close readings, it's related to our like background knowledge. Like when you think as you translate some scripts related to Black Death, then to translate clearly, then we need to understand what the Black Death is and what is the symptoms and the history, or some information about the Black Death to translate clearly. So this is called like close readings. So let
Hello everyone, this is my part about the factors of text analysis. So let's get started with the first one, the intention of the text. The intention of the text goes hand in hand with the understanding of the text. The title may be remote from the content as well as the intention. The translator should pay special attention to the type of language and even the grammatical structures such as passive voice, impersonal verbs. The intention of the text presents the source language writer's attitude to the subject matter. For example, there is a difference in the title of two texts in two different countries. In America, they call the Vietnam War Chiến tranh Việt Nam, but in Vietnam they call the American War Kháng chiến chống Mỹ. Two texts describe a battle or a riot or debate, stating the same facts and figures, but the types of language used and even the grammatical structures, passive voice, impersonal verbs, often used to disclaim responsibility, in each case may be evidence of different points of view. Let's move to the next part. 2.2.3. The intention of the translator. The translator's intention is identical with that of the author of the source language text. So the last one, 2.2.4, text styles. There are 4 types of text. The first one is narrative. It is a dynamic sequence of events which focus on the verbs or phrasal verbs. The second one, description, which is static, with emphasis on linking verbs, adjectives, and adverbial nouns. The next one, discussion. It is a treatment of ideas with abstract nouns, verbs of thought, mental activity, logical argument, and connectives. The last one, dialogue, with colloquialisms and fetishisms. So this is the end of my part. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Linh, and I'm going to talk about the 3 next parts in this presentation. They are leadership, stylistic skills, and setting. To find out the appropriate translation methods, we should first categorize the relationship of the original source language, then of the translation based on the source language. Second, we should determine the level of education, the class, age, and sex of the readership to further target the correct demographic. There are some errors in translation. They are words that are in personal and conversational style. Examples are more and more for increasingly, job for work. Second, words that are in formal style. Example, disease for death. Those types of languages usually signify student translators instead of target readership they're translating for. Following all of this, you can decide how to use the appropriate tone formalities for target language. Here are 3 types of stylistic scales. In the scale of formality, there are 8 types. Official lists and official are both used in official documents. However, the official list style is much more verbose and wordier than the official one. Informal style is usually used in formal letters and especially in passive form in terms of grammar. In neutral form, it usually uses gerund as subject instead of pronouns. In informal style, it usually used for affection purposes. In colloquial style, it's more direct than informal style, and it sounds like speaking form. For slang form, it's only used in particular groups of people. And finally, the taboo form. It's the same as slang form, however, it's more extreme and offensive. Next, the scale of generality or difficulty. The first one is simple. It's simple in terms of vocabulary and grammar structure, usually for English beginner. And next one is popular. And for neutral form, it's usually basic vocabulary. For educated form, it's usually for people with extensive knowledge background. For technical form, it's usually for people who can understand in particular fields of science. And lastly, opaquely technical. It's usually for only experts. And finally, the scale of emotional tone. They are intense, warm, factual, and understatement. Official style is typically factual, while colloquiums and slang are normally emotional. Depending on the passage, pay attention to the informality and understatement of English and other personality of other languages. And the final part of my presentation is setting. When translating, you are aiming for target language, which involves its control and style. That means you need to first find the similarities between source and target language control and style in order to localize the source language. Second, determine the source language readership. There are three typical reader types: expert, educated layman, and uninformed. Apply that to target language readership. However, pay more attention to people who don't know or know little about the source language control. And the final part is for a poem or important authoritative statement, you should consider every target language readership, including giving explanation.
So let's move to next part, 2.2.8, the quality of the writing. When considering the quality of the writing, you need to focus on the quality of the writing and the authority of the text. The quality of the writing, it has to be judged in relation to the author's intention and the requirements of the subject matter. If the text is well written, the manner is as important as the matter. The right words are used in the right place with a minimum of redundancy. You have to regard every nuance of the author's meaning too. A badly written text will be cluttered with stereotyped phrases, recently fashionable general words, and probably poorly structured. The authority of the text is derived from the good writing or the status of the short language writer. If the short language writer is recognized as important in his field and he has official statement, the text is also authoritative. Two point two point nine, the last reading. So finally, you should note the control aspect of the short language text. You need to underline all the allogism, metaphors, control words, and institutional terms peculiar to the short language, or third language, proper names, technical terms, and untranslatable words. Those are ones that have no ready one-to-one equivalent to in the target language. In conclusion, in principle, a translational analysis of the short language text based on its comprehension and the basis of the useful discipline of translation criticism. So, to sum up, you have to study the text not only for itself, but also for a different readership in a different culture. That's on the theory of the lesson. Thank you for your listening.